Fantastic. Good afternoon, all our friends and family. I am your cruise host, Jason. Thank you so much for joining me for the first all-access pass of your Rock and Romance cruise here in 2025. I am honored to be joined by some absolute musical legends, some musical gods right here on this stage. I know some of you, actually, by the time you're watching this at home, everybody has seen them. But for those of you in the live audience, half of you have seen them. The other half gets to see them soon. My friends, please help me as loud as we can welcoming these fabulous musicians. Give it up for Dire Straits Legacy. Before we even get going, and I'll put this out generally, any one of you can grab onto this if you do so desire. When you got the call and we said we would love to have you guys on the Rock and Romance cruise, what was the initial thought? What did you think this was? And then after your first show, was it what you thought it would be? Yeah, throw it to Danny. Yeah, make Danny do it.
Why is it always me? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was a wonderful idea. The very idea of being at sea and playing a gig. What I didn't expect was these high-quality theaters that you've got on board, which are really stunning, actually. And it's been really great playing. Really lovely audience, lovely theater. What's not to like, you know?
I'll take that.
That's it.
Yeah, by all means. And actually, Danny, I'm going to ask a favor of you. If you don't mind, sir. I'm going to ask you to start something. You guys are all absolute legends up here, individually, but as a group, you've also done something very special. Danny, would you be so kind, and I'm going to ask each of you to do this. Pick any one of the four to your right and introduce them in a proper way to this crowd.
Yes, to my immediate right, we have Mel Collins.
Hello.
Mel Collins is a very, very fine sax player. And he's extremely he's extremely accomplished. And well, he'll tell you more about what he's been doing over the years. But we're old mates, and it's a great pleasure to be alongside him and keep his company. He is excellent company.
Feelings mutual.
And I love him, so that's it.
Well, I started with King Crimson. That was my band for a long time. But this
said modestly.
This is really fun for me. It's not too much rehearsing, and it's great fun. The music's so good, and it plays itself, really. And next to me is Marco Calrevere, who is our leader.
Ooh.
I'll take over. About 10 years ago or so, Marco called me up, and John Ilsley, who was the bass player in Dire Straits. I'm the keyboard player in Dire Straits, in case you didn't know. And
he's being modest. That's Alan Clark, founding member of the...
And Marco said, Marco had a Dire Straits tribute band in Italy.
It's true.
And he called me up and said, would you like to come and play with my band on top of a ski mountain in December in northern Italy? And so John Ilsley and I thought, well, that sounds like a fun weekend. And we did that, and it was I think it was like 14 below or something. Like, it was really cold.
14 below.
I was playing with a big coat, a hat, and fingerless gloves. And so we did that show, and then we did another one in a nightclub in Rome, I think. And then we did another one, and gradually, and then Phil came and joined us, and gradually other members of Dire Straits came and joined us, like Mel and Danny, and Jack Sonny, yeah, but so we've had just about all of Dire Straits in the band except Mark Knopfler, I think, because there's no room for Mark Knopfler because we have Marco.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's all true. It's good.
Yes, it really is true, yeah. So, I mean, big round of applause for Marco, who does a magnificent job.
I would say, as a fan as well, and I assume I speak for those of you in the audience, there are very few people in the world that we hear that can actually, I'm not going to say sound like, because I don't want to be rude, but emulate a sound that someone has made popular or famous. Mark Knopfler had a very specific sound. Sir, yours is gorgeous. I mean, you are right there. That is as good as I've ever heard it done outside of Mark Knopfler. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I always try to do my best, you know. It's
Yeah.
to be on stage with such a great friend, but such a great musician, great rock legend. It's always a great privilege.
Sure.
You know, so I always have to do my best. Otherwise, I'll be fired.
True.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Please, sir. Please.
So on my right is Phil Palmer. Now Phil joined Dire Straits in 1990. 1990, yeah. And but before that, Phil and I played together in Eric Clapton's band. Because during from 1986 to 1990, Dire Straits took a break, and so Eric one day Eric called me up and said, "Would you like to join my band?" I said, "I think it took me 3 seconds to say yes." And then and Mark Knopfler was actually playing second guitar in the band for a while, but he had to move on and he had to go and do a movie or something, and so then we needed another guitar player, and that's when Phil came and joined. So Phil and I played in Eric Clapton's band for 2 or 3 years or so, yeah.
We did a couple of world tours over that space of time. It was a great privilege for me to play next to Eric for those times. It was a great learning experience for me. And it sort of dovetailed into the Dire Straits thing. And there was one concert in Nebworth in England where we collaborated. Both bands played at the same time. And
literally at the same time.
yeah. And so there's like 12 people on stage then. And that was my first introduction to Mark, and we pretty much hit it off straight away. And then I had to make a decision between staying with Eric Clapton or joining Dire Straits, and it was a tough decision, that.
But you're here on this stage, so...
Yeah.
And I think that, Phil, I don't want anyone to sell you short. You are truly regarded as one of the top guitarists in the world. So you are not just a guitar player. You are a maestro of the instrument. You're in the presence of people that are true musicians up here right now. So allow me to pay you that compliment, please.
Thank you very much.
You're as good as it gets. And Danny or whoever else wants to take it, I think we need to give Alan some true flowers up here. Would someone properly introduce Alan Clark to this crowd? Who wants to take
That's
it?
normally my job,
Yeah,
actually, on
perfect.
stage.
That's why I kind of pointed at you.
Well, I was very fortunate to play for Dire Straits, and that is how I met Alan, who, unless I'm mistaken, co-produced the last Dire Straits album. And he was there in the studio when I showed up with a truckload of percussion instruments, and I think I played on the record for about 3 days and ended up joining. And Alan was already there, a long-standing member. He joined Dire Straits in 1980, so a very long-standing member. He is mentioned in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's honored there. And he plays with a special touch. It's hard to imagine that a pianist can actually have a voice. But when he plays, it's distinctive. It's almost like he has a voice on the piano. He certainly has a special touch. And what else can I say? And his organ playing is absolutely so dreamy and beautiful. He's very fluid. And well, it's a great honor to work with him. And that's that.
By all means.
Thank you, Danny. I'll pay you later.
And Alan, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me. Other than Knopfler, you're the only member of Dire Straits in history to be on every record. Is that correct? Is that still correct?
Not every record.
Not every record.
I joined immediately after the third one. So,
Okay.
So they made the Dire Straits album, then
Gotcha.
they made Communique, then they made Making Movies, and that's when they needed a keyboard player. So
Gotcha.
that's when I came along.
You've been in for quite a few years, though. You've been in since about 1980. Is that
1980,
correct? 1980. Fantastic. And then I'll open this. Alan, I'll start with you if you don't mind, and you can feel free to pass it off. Tell us a little bit about continuing, not to take from the name, but the legacy of the Dire Straits. Obviously, you are not a tribute band, and I hate when people use that phrase when you have true musicians that have been there and done that. So we're not going to obviously use any of those phrases, but you are continuing the legacy of the music. Tell us a little bit about what it's like with the current build of the band from your point of view, and how it stacks up over the years to what you're used to in the past 45 years of being with the group.
Well, this band was put together for fun, and it remains that way. I mean, we do it for fun. We don't do it for the money.
Well, I'm doing
Cancel
it for the
the
money.
check.
I don't know about you.
Cancel the check.
Yeah, so I mean, the legacy of Dire Straits is the music. That is the legacy.
The songs.
And it would be a pity if nobody was out there playing the music, and so that's our job basically. And you know, I enjoy playing with this band equally as much, maybe even more than I did with Dire Straits, because it's kind of it's a bit more easy. You know, with Dire Straits, we were doing massive world tours, playing massive shows. We're playing to 40,000 people every night for a year and a half or so. You know, it's craziness. This band, it's just a whole lot. It's just fun.
Plus, we're friends. We're really dear
It makes
friends.
a difference. It makes a difference.
Absolutely.
It really does if you get along with the guy next to you on stage or the person next to you on stage. And I think I speak again as a fan and as part of the crowd. We can feel that. When you're watching a group that either doesn't get along or doesn't have proper chemistry, you can see and feel that from an audience. You know, you really can. But you also know when you see a group that clicks, that plays well together. And I noticed last night as I was watching your show, musicianship-wise, you give each other a lot of space to do what you feel, and not always just the exact chord progression. I noticed there's a lot of space. Talk to us a little bit about, like last night's show, for instance, or the tour you're on right now, how you kind of put together. Is it all done in the moment? Are you just allowing each other that space in the moment? Or is it rehearsed that way? Well, you said you don't rehearse much anymore, I guess, Mel, so it's fine. How do you get to where it currently stands?
It kind of evolves. The more gigs you do, the more fluid it gets, the more space you leave, because you get aware of what someone's about to do because he did it before. And so you leave a hole for that. And it's really important to the structure of the Dire Straits songs. There's a lot of dynamics inside those songs, and that's what we work on. We work on that. And it's a joy to play them. I mean, they're great songs for a start.
Oh, they're fantastic.
We play, sometimes we play a song called Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And recently, when we get to the guitar solo, instead of powering through it, now what we do, the whole thing drops down, and it comes right down, leaves Phil a ton of space. And honestly, the fact that we do leave that space gives you goosebumps. And it makes sense, you know, to continue to seek the opportunity to create space. It actually makes this thing sound bigger, not smaller. And it's oxygenated and it's lovely.
The music develops as well. It's developing all
the
time.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we allow the music to grow. So we started, when we first got together, we started playing pretty much the arrangements of that we left off with Dire Straits. But since then, the past 10 years, we've allowed it to develop exactly the same as Dire Straits did. I mean, whenever Dire Straits did a tour, we would rehearse comprehensively for a few weeks, and we would reimagine the songs, so and change them. And I mean, a classic example is Romeo and Juliet, which over a 10-year period went from about being a 3.5-minute song to about a 10-minute song.
Yeah.
There's an English joke, I don't know if you have this joke in America about musicians, and it says, what do you mean, more dynamics? I'm playing as loud as I can.
Yeah. You know? That fits. I'll take that. Now, I would also add that, or I would ask, I guess, forgive me, I would not add, I would ask, as the current build of the band goes, and you say you leave space for each other, as we're kind of discussing in the progression of the songs, Where is the balance between staying, and I'm going to use words that aren't necessarily fair, so don't take them that way. Where is the balance between staying what is quote unquote true to the original album songs? You know, there are times where those songs need to be done the way they were the first time, and then where you get to have fun with them and progress with them and have them adapt and grow with the new group. Where do you find the balance between what was and what is?
There's certain elements in Dire Straits songs that need to be there.
Absolutely.
Normally they would be the guitar parts that Marco takes care of. And if he doesn't play those parts, for example, the lick at the end of Sultans of Swing, then people are disappointed. So
yes.
Mark Knopfler had the same problem because he always had to play that lick, you know, for 40
Once
years.
it's identified, yeah. Once people know it and love it.
I remember
part
Mark,
of the
Mark
song.
saying the thing he's talking about on Sultans, Mark calls his twiddly bits, or his wife calls, and she said, "How was the gig tonight, darling?" He said, "Well, it was all right. Sultans didn't go down as well as normal." She said, "Did you play your twiddly bits?" He said, "No." She said, "Well, there you go."
It's interesting. And again, I'm speaking as a fan because we've most of the folks in this audience have been with us for years and years on these cruises. And one of the very interesting things we find is music, and you know this intimately, music means something unique to people. When you hear a song, often it can take you to a time, a place, a specific memory. It can transport you. It really is the soundtrack to our lives. And I love that she called it the twiddly bit, because it's exactly what it comes down to. That bit played a role for people, whether they sang it or air guitared it or whatever it was. And if it's not there, it feels incomplete. So where you can add things, I would assume it would be tricky, to your point, Phil, about taking things away, because you got to be very careful, which all of a sudden you pulled an ingredient.
Yeah, you can't step on those sections, you know, because people are waiting for them.
Well, I like to allow our audience to ask questions, as I kind of mentioned in the beginning. I got a few of them here, not too many, but a few I would like to ask if you don't mind. Sharon comes to us from Texas. Which of the Dire Straits songs do you all enjoy specifically and personally performing the most? It doesn't have to be your favorite song, but your performance.
For me, and I think for most of us, Private Investigations.
Private Investigations. Interesting.
For me, it's your latest trick, obviously. Sorry about that. Yeah. It's
Sax solo.
Okay.
There's no sax on Private Investigations.
Next. For me, Telegraph Road.
Rough Roads?
Telegraph Road.
Oh,
because,
Telegraph Road.
Yeah, because it's not a song to me. It's a movie.
Yeah.
You know, there is a lot of dynamics in the song. You know, a lot of different parts made from this guy. You know, and it's a journey to me with
Love
a
that.
great end. You know, it's my favorite.
I love that.
one.
Phil, what about you, sir?
Yeah.
You have a favorite?
I would agree with Alan. Private Investigations is a great atmosphere.
Cool.
And we really work on the dynamics in there. It goes down to nothing and then goes full power in some places.
Full throat in there. Yeah.
It's great fun.
Please, Danny.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I love all the songs. There isn't one that I don't like. Solid rock, maybe. But I really do love all the songs. But I must agree, Private Investigations is a bit special. It's dynamic. So it's about as dynamic as it gets, really. And it's a beautiful piece of music. It's just so full of melody, and the lyrics are amazing. I mean, all his lyrics are just phenomenal. You know, he's such a poet, really. And yeah, P.I.
Love that.
Oh, I like it too.
Don't try to get in now, Mel. Nice try.
Oh, yeah, now you
Nice
say it.
try.
You can have a crafty beer, can't you, while we're all doing that?
I know, he's after a sax solo in
That's
Private
what he's chasing.
Investigations.
Yeah, obviously. Clearly, you're not making enough space for poor Mel down there to get into the songs. Bill comes to us from Georgia. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing currently as a group. Are you on tour right now?
We never stop. I mean, it's just a band. We're not making records because the records are already done by the original band. So we are a live act. That's what we are. We never stop. We're always looking for opportunities to play. And it's a continuum, really, that we're all kind of locked into, and it's rather wonderful.
I think we're gonna have early in the next year a tour with full orchestra.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
We did a gig in Switzerland in 4 months ago, 5 months ago. And what a great experience. Full orchestra with the band. It's really amazing. You know.
Alan, when you play with a full orchestra after all your time in the group and your experience with these songs, and not that all of you don't have them, but specifically at Alan, what does that bring to the music for you to have a full orchestra?
It brings an orchestra.
I'm in my place, sir. Thank you.
It gives it a little bit of depth.
Depth.
Or a different kind of depth and breadth. It gives it texture, and it helps to bring out some of the harmonies more in a way because of the orchestrations.
Yeah.
And if you like the sound of an orchestra, why not, you know?
It's a unique, when you take music, again, going back to the fact that, it's music that everybody knows and loves, the response to that has to be fantastic, though, because it is changing it in such a, like you said, the breadth and depth of it, it gets so grand in a lot of ways. Was the response what you thought it would be? Was it greater than you thought it would be? Less? How was the response to the gig that you did, the first one you did?
We always get a great response, with or without an orchestra. And I mean,
of course.
So the orchestra, yeah, it was equally as good. I mean, I don't know if it was better or worse, but probably better. I mean, because the orchestra was amazing.
It was an experiment, really,
Sure.
and we're going to take it further because it opens up different venues for us as well.
Yeah.
Because then you can start doing opera houses in various cities around the world, rather than rock venues.
Yeah.
And I think that would be very interesting.
How many dates, roughly? What is an ideal year, date-wise, now? How many dates would you like to see?
Last year we did 70 shows.
It's a lot of shows still. That's a lot of shows. I think what people don't understand too often is it's not the show, the date. The date is not a one day. Playing the gig is the easy part, right? It's the travel, it's the load in, it's the load out. It's a lot that goes around. So 70 shows is still, that's a monster schedule still.
And we are going to have the same, more or less the same, also this year.
70 this year.
Yeah. So
That's
60,
fantastic.
70.
Congratulations.
When we played in Brazil, the gigs are quite late at night.
Sure.
And sometimes it's quite a long drive from the venue to the hotel. So we finish late. Sometimes we won't get to bed until 3:30 in the morning, and it's bags at 7:15 in the lobby. So you're not getting a lot of sleep. You do a few of those in a row, and you know about it.
Especially when you're 77.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
I'm not.
Mel just wants a
Mel
sax
is
solo.
the
Leave him
younger
alone.
of
Yeah.
the band. Come on, man.
You mentioned Brazil. You guys have obviously performed all over the world. What countries or what areas blew you away when you showed up and you played and everybody knew the words and everybody sang along or whatever that was? The response was. Did you play anywhere that caught you off guard? That the response was so intense?
I think it always catches us off guard. I mean, wherever we are, whatever country, whatever language that they speak there, they all seem to sing along with
That's
with
amazing,
the tunes.
isn't it?
Yeah, including Brazil. Brazil was a real surprise for us, and we've been back there 5 times now.
It's amazing.
And it's a great country, and the gigs are amazing. We play big stadiums down there.
What about you, Danny? Where do you like to play? What countries, cities, stadiums? What's on your list?
Well, I'm looking forward to going to the States. We went there once, and I've been there once or twice with you, haven't I? And the response is the thing, and the American sort of sincerity, which I really love. An audience that is really listening, that have come to watch and pick it apart if they must, whatever. They're taking it deadly seriously, and that puts us on the spot. And in America, they're used to the best in the world, so we have to be on form. I think that's quite adrenal, and it gives it meaning as well. So I like to play the States. That's where I like to go. Looking forward to going there again.
I like that.
We will go back in this. Yeah.
I'm such a creep, aren't I? I really am.
Way to pander to the crowd. Go ahead, Marco.
The guy knows how to work a room,
We will tour in the States in a couple of months.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you know off the top where you're going?
Yeah, I can't remember all the dates, but I think we are gonna be in the States from May 20 something to mid-June. So it's 3 weeks, I think, you know.
Fantastic.
That's a lot of hamburgers.
That's
Yeah, a lot of hamburger.
Welcome to the States.
Not too much pasta, sadly. Yeah.
What
We went to Chile, and I ended up with a wife.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
It's absolutely true, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
It's because you had all that
Yeah,
time
yeah.
off in the middle of songs.
Yeah,
Don't.
yeah. Tell the story, Mel. Come on.
Oh, now you have to tell the story, Mel. You can't just throw that out there and try to walk
No,
away.
it's-
How does one
I
go to
was
Chile and walk away
responsible
with a
too.
wife? Yeah,
It's a long story.
that's okay. Tell us the fun version, or I'm going to make Danny do it. Don't do that. Yeah. Well, congratulations, Mel. Congratulations on that achievement, sir. Yeah. Some people collect awards. You found a wife. That's fine. Whatever you need. Gary comes to us from Florida. And Alan, this may be aimed more at you. Actually, Marco, you probably take this one. I know you're... Marco, is it true that you are one of the foremost experts on Knopfler and Dire Straits in general and the history of...
I can answer that. He is. Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't think so, but it's a...
Well, Alan
no,
thinks
I'm not. He knows more about Dire Straits than I do, and I was in the band. I have to ask him when he, when somebody mentions a song, I have to ask him which album it was on.
No, I know. I love the band. I love the guys. I love every song. You know, I love Mark Knopfler, of course, and yeah, I know a lot of things, but they made the music. You know, so for me, it's always great and to be with all of them on stage, playing this music and make a dream come true. You know, that's the thing.
Marco,
you know?
you already got the gig, buddy. You already got the gig. It's okay. Tell him it's okay, Alan. He's already got
Okay.
No, joking. But then, Marco, maybe this one is aimed at you, because it's a history question here. Gary from Florida says, in the song Money for Nothing, you talk about custom cabinets delivered to your apartment. Was it, back me up here, Gary, was it Dietrich Cabinet Shop from Harmony, New Jersey? They were all buddies, I heard, back in those days. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know really. I don't know, but
Mark told me that he wrote that song because he was out shopping with his relatively new wife for his house. He had a house in New York, and she wanted kitchen appliances for her new kitchen, so he got dragged along. So he went out as she was looking around. He went outside for a cigarette, and he overheard a couple of guys who were working there. They were watching MTV, and so he started writing down or memorizing what the guys were saying about MTV, and it's all. So the whole song was based around the conversation.
A conversation he overheard. Wow.
Yeah, criticizing, the
Look at
pop,
those
the pop
yo-yos.
star and the rock star
Sure.
lifestyle and the privilege and all the rest of it. Maybe get a blister on your little finger, maybe get a blister and, oh, boo-hoo, So.
So that was a conversation that he overheard. Oh, wow.
maybe a good thing to say about Money for Nothing is the sound of the guitar, because as Alan, you said to me, came out by coincidence, because was the wah pedal,
When we started rehearsing that song, before we recorded it, for the rehearsals before we went into the studio, it sounded that Mark hadn't developed that guitar riff, and the song when he first played it sounded more like a Rolling Stones song than it does now, and he gradually was working on the riff, and then one day after dinner, we were in Montserrat in the Caribbean, recording the song, and one day after dinner he went in and because he had an idea for the riff, and he started playing the riff. So we said, okay, let's just record that, and he was playing it to a click. There was nobody else playing. He played, and before that he'd been playing with a wah-wah pedal because he thought maybe it'll sound good with a wah-wah pedal. And this was before dinner. And then after dinner, he came back, and the wah-wah pedal had been left half on. It was a crybaby wah-wah pedal. I don't know if you know of it. Yeah. And that's how the sound came. He started playing it, and he went, "Wow, this is a great sound." And then he immediately started playing the lick, the way it is on the record. In fact, he recorded the lick there and then, and we made the record around that. So
Really?
it started with the guitar, yeah. And it was
Wow.
the sound of the guitar was accidental. And then afterwards in rehearsals for the tour, he was struggling to get the sound.
Sure.
And it was only when he was reminded about the wah-wah pedal that he suddenly went, right. So then he had to go and buy a rack-mounted crybaby wah-wah pedal so you can adjust it and leave it permanently in that position.
Thank you for that story. That's a wonderful background story. Wonderful.
I was expecting you also to say about I want my MTV. Yeah.
Well, that's another story, yeah.
Yeah.
When we were rehearsing in London, before we went in the studio to record Brothers in Arms, we were playing. We started playing around with Money for Nothing, and then we went and had lunch. Lots of things have happened around lunchtime and dinner time with this band.
It's a magic time.
And then I went back into the rehearsal room, and I'd been hanging out in New York quite a lot in the very early '80s, and watching MTV. And MTV were using the soundbite "I Want My MTV" back then. In 1985, or 84, 85, when we started rehearsing for Brothers in Arms, I think they dropped that soundbite. They were using something else. But so I started messing around. I played the intro of Money for Nothing. I played the first chord, and I started singing. I'll attempt to sing what I was singing at the time. I was thinking, I want my MTV, I want my MTV. And then I changed the chord. And of course, that melody didn't work on the next chord. And then Mark came in and I said, hey, Mark, I've got an idea for an intro. And by the end of the day, we'd come up with the entire intro. And what happened with my melody is it was pared down to, I want my... And then after we finished rehearsing the song, it occurred to us that it was Sting's melody from Don't Stand So Close to Me. Now, just to make the situation even more interesting, when we were in Montserrat recording the album, Sting was there on holiday, so he came to the studio for dinner, and it was like
Not for lunch.
not for lunch. Yeah.
Dinner.
And afterwards, we invited him into the studio to have a listen. And hey, do you fancy singing this intro? So Sting sang the intro, and it was his melody. But it had just evolved into that. We hadn't sort of stolen his melody. We'd sort of stumbled upon it, if you see what I mean.
Sure.
And long story short, that's why Sting is credited on the album on that song as having a co-write.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. I feel like a lot of the great stories in history, whether they are how a band got their name or whether it's how certain songs came to be, there's so many fantastic stories about moments like that. They're not planned. It's just like you said, a lot of things happen over lunch and dinner, and whether it's a conversation or someone sitting in. Thank you for sharing that. That's something I didn't know. I don't know if our sitting audience knew, but that's wonderful. Thank you. Marco, I'm going to fire one at you as the excited guy in the middle, as the historian. What made you so fascinated by Dire Straits to learn and to follow the way you did before you were even, I'm assuming this happened before you got into the group.
Yeah, of course.
So what age did you start and what pushed you to be so intrigued?
Yeah, I started because of my cousin. My cousin was bigger, older than me, 2-3 years older. And he is a big fan of Bob Dylan. So I was watching him, as a reference for me. And one day he came to me with a tape with, okay, Marco, these are very good songs. I remember this tape with the Bob Dylan song, with some song from The Clash in the 70s, And one of the songs was Sultans of Swing. And I went in love with the sound of the guitar, you know, and so I was 12 years old, you know, so I started, you know, I want to play the guitar like this guy, you know, and now I am here with them, you know, and that's great.
You're very humble, sir. You're very humble. That's a good thing. And we're closing in on about time to get you guys out of here. But Phil, I'm going to fire one at you. With your expertise and your talent and your recognition as a guitar player, you've played with a lot of folks. You've got an incredible list of albums and artists you've played with and for. Tell us a little bit about some of your favorite points, and then tell us how you feel about playing these riffs and being in this band.
Okay, yeah, I was in the 70s. I was a session man in London, so it enabled me to enjoy a cross section of music, you know, including, strangely enough, Sheena Easton, who I believe is on this group.
She's coming,
and I'm looking forward to seeing her again, actually. So yeah, I did sessions for like 15, 20 years, and I worked with all kinds of people. Frank Zappa. Did an album with Frank Zappa, did an album with Iggy Pop and David Bowie early on. You know, it's sort of classic albums. You know, the first version of China Girl was on an album that I played on. You know, it became a kind of iconic song. And it gave me a great grounding for being able to fit into any kind of situation, be sensitive to the music and the artist. You know, it's a big lesson. And so, for me, the transition between Session Man and Eric Clapton was a gentle slope, and I didn't feel too put out by it. You know, I was playing in a nightclub in a strange part of London called the Mean Fiddler. It was an Irish sort of folk club with a guy called Paul Brady, who's a fantastic Irish singer-songwriter. And I looked down into the audience like this, and Eric Clapton was sitting out there. And he'd come to see Brady, and I was looking down and seeing God, you know. And you don't often see that, you know.
God, yeah. Or Eric Clapton, I suppose, yeah.
And then you snapped a string and it all went haywire.
So yeah, I ended up working with Eric kind of soon after that, and you know that's how it all worked back then. It was reputation, being visible, you know, and doing a lot of sessions. You were always visible.
You mentioned you learned by being a session musician, though, the sensitivities and how to deal not only with other players that you're playing, other musicians, but also the artists, whoever you're playing with in the moment. Does that still play for you? Does that assist you now as being a part of a band and no longer being a session guy?
There was a magical moment, I don't know, somewhere along the line where being a session guy, you're sometimes asked to be someone else.
Yeah.
Play like
them. Yeah.
Play like you know, Eric Clapton. Play like Jimi Hendrix. Play like Jimmy Page.
At least they're just little guys. They're no one you have to worry about. It's easy, right? Yeah. We can all play like that.
And so you get good at it, but interpreting other people's ideas. And one day someone said to me on a session, "Can you play like Phil Palmer?" And I thought, perhaps.
Never thought of that.
And then you saw God, and it was you.
And that was it. I never looked back.
That's amazing. That is a phenomenal story. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Gentlemen, before we get you out of here, and the gentlemen have agreed they're going to sign autographs. So after we're done here, we're going to go out and around. We're not going to come up to the stage. We're going to send them around. Before we do that, Danny, I'll throw one more at you at the end, sir, if you'd be so kind, or Mel, either one of you. What do you see moving forward for Dire Straits Legacy? How long is it? Do you want to take this as far as it can go? I know you guys are close friends, and I know you love each other, but touring life can be challenging. It's not the simplest life. And Mel, as you mentioned, you're not 25 anymore, good sir. How far do you want to go in terms of Dire Straits Legacy? Is this
I'm just so pleased that I'm still here playing, to be honest. I can't say more than that.
I think we echo that, yeah. Danny, please.
Well, I just want to keep it going as long as possible because it is enjoyable. It's work, it's solid work. You know, we earn a crust, but we enjoy ourselves tremendously, and I can't see any reason for it to stop, really, as long as people want to hear the music. And that's the transaction between us and the audience. We're happy, they're happy. As long as that continues, that's it for me. I'll stick with it.
Fantastic.
That's
Please.
actually the great thing about what we do. We make people happy.
Amen. 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 And it's something that's in short supply at times, and I feel like anyone who does provide that provides such a great service to not only who's in the room, but who listens to the albums at home, who follows along with the music, who comes to your tours, who goes to the show last night or tonight or tomorrow night. It's truly a testament. And allow me to say on behalf of all the folks sitting in the room live, and of course everyone watching here back in their rooms, and on behalf of Star Vista Live, thank you so much for agreeing to come out and be a part of this cruise and this show.
Thank you.
We're truly honored. Help me, my friends. Dire Straits Legacy, Phil, Alan, Marco, Mel, and Danny.